It's 10:30, everybody. Welcome to our April 12th All Residents Meeting at Village on the Green, being brought to you from the Longwood Room and Channel 3 for those who are at home watching. I'm Ann Blair. I think most of you know me. I'm your resident council chair, and as I want to do, I will go over the names of our newcomers and a few other things, and then I'll turn the meeting over to our executive director, Joey, for his portion of the meeting. We have a lot to cover, of course. Right off the bat, I want to welcome Wendy Gashlin, who is our new Village on the Green Nurse Care Coordinator. Welcome, Wendy. Joey will be speaking more, and I imagine Wendy will be speaking more, so I won't go into too much detail there. We'll also have our LifeSpace Florida Regional Vice President, Zach Jacobson, who's on campus, and he'll be with us here a little later, I guess. He's got some calls he's on right at the moment. It was Zach who put together for us the meeting, the leadership meeting at Harbor's Edge down in South Florida that I attended along with Joey doing the driving and Basil substituting for Al Porter, who couldn't go doing the finance end of things. And it was a wonderful meeting, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. I just want to mention that the resident survey, we're in the range now of getting that done. I know Rhonda and Steve have been working hard to get people to put their surveys either online or do it with them or whatever. That will be open until the 14th, and we really do want to have a large turnout of participation on that. And I hope everybody will do their survey. It's extremely important to LifeSpace. That's how they get their information, and whether we like that method or not, that's the way they get it, and it is becoming on us to do it so that we have our words heard by LifeSpace. Let me read over our newcomers. We have lots of newcomers. I think only one here today, but I'm going to go by building number. In Building A, we have Lenora Pitts in A202. We have Linda Mays, who is here. Linda's back here. She's temporarily in A304 and eventually going to A114. And we have Mary Lou, she's the hyphenated last name, but she said she prefers to just be Sleed. Mary Lou Sleed in 118, in A118. In Building B, we have Karen Lights, B212, and in C, we have Randy Broderick in C118, and Connie Rosen in C212. Connie is listed in many places as Annette, but she likes to be called Connie, so that's something we need to get used to. And then we have a couple of villa people, Richard and Phyllis Levine in one of the new villas, 146, and Les and Lynn Kramer in New Villa 150. And then we also have coming to the villas up where the Colemans are up by my way, Villa 405, a lady named Barbara Goss. She hasn't really officially moved in yet, but we have seen her. I think she's getting some of the closet work done and that sort of thing, but I don't think she's officially moved in. And of course, I want to mention our remembrances. Don Van Cleve, who passed away on the 13th of March, and Pat Quinn on the 1st of April. And I believe there's a celebration of life to come. I'm not sure the dates, but I did see some mention of that. With that, I believe I'll turn things over to Joey for the remainder. He's got some updated slides to show us and a lot more to tell us, okay? Shall I take this away?
Sure. Best not to arm me. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Am I coming in loud and clear?
Yes.
Very good. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you again. My, how time flies. I feel like I was just up here, but so glad to be with you again. So a lot of information. I keep thinking I'm going to have a short presentation one of these days, but as I'm putting the slides together in the evening, I just keep adding stuff, and I'm sure there's stuff I'll leave out. So as always, if you have questions, please toss your hand up, and don't be afraid to interrupt me. All right, so as always, we start with our grounding principles, be it at a resident town hall, a team member town hall, or leadership meetings. It's about living life space, right? This is what is informing us, the values through which we are to be working as a team, the strategy with which we're focused on in order to accomplish the vision and mission of the organization. Much of our conversation, or my kind of topics today, is focused on the stabilized portion. And again, coming back to the 4 big items that we have kind of distilled our strategy down to for stability is focus on team member engagement, the resident net promoter score, occupancy, and net operating margin. So we're going to go through today from a high level how the organization, LifeSpace, and its 17 communities is doing on an enterprise level, and then distill that down to Village on the Green and how we're performing, because we do have some updates. So this was a graph that was brought up in one of our home office presentations in an effort to kind of, when we talk about the Big Four, why are we focused on the Big Four? I've kind of seen other graphics, but for this, I really feel like this is like the life cycle in a way. Team member engagement, if team members are engaged, our retention is high, our turnover is low, our labor costs are being managed correctly, our team is being invested in, they are providing an experience to our residents that makes this a great place to live. That experience for you, it's curated experiences, it's high quality, it is a good value. You feel confident in referring that your friends saying, yes, I'm very happy living here and I want the same for you. That means we get more referrals, right? Referrals, more move-ins than we have move-outs because we're managing our attrition and the transition through care there. So our occupancy is rising. As our occupancy rise, obviously our revenues, and if we're managing our expenses, we're bringing in more revenues. Our net entry fees are positive, meaning we have more coming in than we're paying out. We're producing more cash, improving our cash position as a community overall. And then we can do the additional investments, right? Be it wage increases, better benefits programs, whatever for the team members. And hopefully, kind of like a flywheel, getting that going so we have positive momentum. So this is a slide I shared with the team members. I think it's kind of helping them to understand why do we focus on the 4 topics, and then as we have discussions or issues are coming up, I'm asking them, well, how does it impact the Big Four, and trying to get the team members to think in that line so that we're prioritizing the items where we can make the most impact. So I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you. So we've introduced a color coding to try and make that a little bit more digestible. Red is bad, green is good, blue is better. So red below budget, or our target, because something's our budget per se, but it's kind of the expectation we set out at the beginning of the year. Green, we're hitting that. Blue, we're hitting that, and we're hitting our goal of best in class, right? So really budget, or our initial goal, is kind of the minimum threshold. That's what our expectation is. We want to reach beyond that. We're not trying to be the minimum here. So we've identified those organizations or entities that are the best, and that's what we're striving for. So if you see blue, we're on budget and we're meeting that best-in-class metric. So this is 2023, the LifeSpace Enterprise, all 17 communities rolled up into one. And so this is January and February's information. I know we're in the beginning of April here, but our financials for March are just in process, and I do have some good updates about that. But this is just looking at January and February. So when we look at that first pillar of team member engagement, we have gotten our team member engagement results back, so this is up to date with that information. We ended engagement in 2022 at 73%. Our goal was to get to 78, and we got to 75. We're going to break that down by community and see how we did as well. Team member retention, looking back 12 months, how many team members did we have then versus now? Target is 73, we're about 71% as an organization. From a customer quality perspective, our 5-star rating is on target. Ladies and gentlemen, Zach Jacobson has entered the building.
Wow.
If you don't know, that's my boss. Welcome, Zach. Glad to have you. Just getting in here. I got to embarrass him a little bit, right? Or is it
I'm just coming up front so you don't have to turn around. I'll be in the back.
Oh, he wants to be in the back. Okay.
Our resident NPS, this is last I think September's scores, because we're going through that process right now. From an occupancy perspective, you can see average aisle occupancy across the enterprise in red, not quite where we want it to be. And a lot of that is due to attrition being at a higher rate than what we expected for this year. And when I introduce Wendy and talk a little bit about her role, we'll get into that, the efforts the organization's making to manage that attrition. Higher level of living occupancy is rocking it. They're above budget, they're above best in class. That is assisted living, memory care, and the skilled nursing. We're really doing a strong job carrying some of the load there for us while we get our act in order, our act together in other areas. Entrance fees as a whole, still negative, so that means you're paying out more entrance fees than you're bringing in. As I mentioned last meeting, it's a little bit cyclical. Sometimes you'll see the organization's original focus used to be very quarter, like first quarter, how many moves, second quarter, how many moves. We're making a bit of a change to that. We're going to more of a monthly focus in an effort to get away from this cycle of kind of boom and bust that you see. In December, you see a whole bunch of move-ins as folks try to meet that quarterly goal. And then January, there's nothing as they build up to March and a whole bunch of move-ins. We really need to get out of the mindset of, oh, we only move people in at the end of the quarter. We move them when the unit's ready, when they're ready, regardless of where we are in the year cycle, so we can be a little bit more stable in terms of our cash flows here. So you see net entry fees negative, but I expect that to change, especially with the boom of March that you're going to see at the next meeting, and I'll give you a little bit of insight into that. Operating revenues just off of budget. A lot of that's going to be driven by the IL occupancy challenges throughout the system, but you'll see what is green is operating expenses. So we are on track in terms of managing our expenses, our biggest one being labor. And that really I would attribute to our utilization of new tools like Workday, which I shared with the resident council, and how we're able to track and monitor our compliance and labor and make sure we're doing a good job there. Net operating margin is green for the system as a whole, which is wonderful. So even with the negative entry fees, the operating margin, we are positive there. Net cash negative just because of that large amount of entry fees paid out. And then still at 17 communities. So that's LifeSpace at an enterprise level. Any questions there? Yes?
What is KPIS?
Key performance indicators.
Okay.
Management lingo. So these are kind of the actual metrics that we monitor, and across in other systems they call them KPIs, but for kind of LifeSpace lingo, we're calling it the balanced scorecard to make it a little bit more digestible for team members and whatnot.
Where do you see that?
It's at the top under the title at the
Oh,
very
way
end.
up there.
Yep. So when you're talking to bond holders, or if you're talking to board members, instead of calling it the balanced scorecard, they're gonna have no idea what that means. If you talk about KPIs, folks go, got it, occupancy, off we go.
And the NPS, resident NPS?
That's the Net Promoter Score, NPS.
Oh, that's that
Yep.
one,
Yep.
Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, that's the one we're working on right now. So we're gonna break it down by region a little bit more. So in the top section there, you have Florida and the Florida communities. I put some chevrons there by Village on the Green, so you can see same categories as the previous slide, just drilling down into the Aqua region and the Florida communities. You can see team member engagement. We'll get into we've seen improvements there, but not to where we expected in budget, and not to where we would consider best in class. NPS, we're going through that process right now. 5-star rating, overall 4, we have 1 out of 3. IL occupancy, you can see some green there, a little less red. Higher levels of living, you're seeing a lot of blue there. There is some red, but if you still look at those percentages, those are still pretty strong percentages. So as an aggregate, we're doing well on that front. Net entrance fees, all but Abbey Delray South were in a negative, so they're paying out more than they brought in February. Net operating margin, you'll see Harbor's Edge leading the way there in the positive. The rest are all negative for net operating margin for that month. But we'll get into it, but you'll notice Village on the Green, that is a very small negative compared to where we've been in the past. So we'll talk more about it. Overall net cash negative. So still red there, still a lot of things for us to be focusing on, but we're also seeing some movement on some of the stuff that we're working on. You can see the Midwest and Texas regions as well in terms of their contributions to the enterprise level. Questions about our region? Okay. So looking at Village on the Green, you'll look at our revenues. So this is the table on the right-hand side. That last column, that's kind of our performance for January and February combined. Revenues right on target in terms of where we expected to be from a budget perspective. Expenses about $200,000 over where we expected to be. And really a bulk of that is in January. Some of that trickles into February as well. But you're going to be seeing kind of a downward trend in terms of our expenses coming in, the trend coming in line with where we expect it to be. Net operating margin, you saw that was at negative 50,000 for the year. So it's a negative 1.2%. Net entry fees, 200,000 in the negative. We did bring in 2 entry fees in February. So that did kind of help offset that large drop we had in January. I think we were about 650,000 in entry fees paid out. So net cash production for negative 200,000. I'm gonna go ahead and say it here. I don't have my March numbers yet, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but the preliminary numbers for March are very good for Village on the Green. Yes, they're done. Oh, so I know they're good. To the tune of $170,000 into the positive. So not only does that pull us out of being operating in the red, that gets us right back on track to budget. I think so. Then we're probably only off budget. What about 8,000, 13,000? 13,000. We're off budget, but we're in the black. I want to say if you compared that to last year, I think we were in the hole by almost $750,000. So if you look at that swing, now a lot of that goes to rate increases and revenue being higher, but also a lot of that is managing our labor expenses, right? We have to make sure we're tight about that in order to make sure we're using the funds that you've coughed up very well. So I want to just acknowledge that, but just say that the resources you're giving us, we're doing a good job with it, and we're trending in the right direction. Next month we'll talk in detail about that, so we're still going back to February's number. Operating revenue in February, $28,000 ahead of where we expected it to be, and really home health and skilled nursing are the 2 areas that are contributing most positively to that. Variance and memory care, bringing it in there as well. IL and community-wide and AL a little bit off there, but there are a lot of things that are piled into community-wide that are also kind of technically attributable to the other higher levels of living, but in order for us to be able to manage things like benefits usage, taxes, we put it all in community-wide to be able to really keep track of it versus burying it in a department, and then that's not something a department director can manage per se, so it really strips all that stuff out. So the financials that we see for a department director are the controllable, manageable expenses. Speaking of expenses, so we were, compared to budget, we got a net operating margin of 57,000, so that was pretty tremendous considering where we've been in the past. Previous year, month to date, at the end of February, it was negative 325,000, so pretty big swing there for our team. Any questions about that? So what is that being driven by? A lot of that is occupancy. End of February, our attrition is lower than what we expected it to be. Just speaking transparently, I do think that's going to catch up to us a little bit here in the next couple months based on what I see on our tracking, but I expect it to be within line of budget. I don't expect it to exceed that, and we are fortunate as many of our sister communities are seeing attrition at a much higher level. Move-ins were at 2, 1 off of budget, but we definitely made up for it in March. And then resident referrals, 47. Thank you to our residents who really contributed to those resident referral drives, and appreciate you helping our sales team connect with your community as well. So overall average occupancy 73.8 at the end of February. So I am gonna say, we've got March numbers locked in for this. We ended a census of 201 out of 262 units, which is 76.7%. So we were able to meet our expectations in terms of who we thought we'd bring in, and then we beat that a little bit more. Our goal for the quarter was 10 move-ins, and we brought in 11. So kudos to the sales team. We do have a President's Club award winner, so that is a sales counselor who brings in 6 or more in a quarter, and that's Christina Beck. We're going to be celebrating, recognizing her this coming Monday on our enterprise-wide huddle. So if you see her, give her an atta girl, because she's been working real hard on that. This is actually the second quarter in a row for her in President's Club. And I do, Menica was just off by 1, she had 5. So I said, come on, Menica, we can do it, get her across the finish line. We did have 3 move-outs in February, so we netted 6. And then we have 5 deposits on the quarter for Q2. So our goal there is 16 for this upcoming quarter, which is a pretty lofty goal. But I have high confidence in the team to be able to pull that together. This table at the bottom, I talk a lot about our numbers and attrition and whatnot. Again, I'll have these slides available at the end once I finish making my tweaks and whatnot for you. So I don't expect you to read this eye chart right now, but it does kind of break into what are we expecting in terms of move-outs, what are we expecting in terms of move-ins, what does that look like for an annual census, occupancy, what does that look like from a percentage perspective. So just wanted to share that with you so you know what our teams are striving for. So team members, we got our team member engagement survey back. So just like you're going through the process right now, our team members went through that last month. Our goal was to get to 79% in terms of engagement. We got to 77, which wasn't quite to that mark, but it was an increase of 2 percentage points. And so we'll delve into that a little bit. Retention and turnover still tracking a little bit below where we'd like to see it. So again, when we talk engagement, there's a lot of things that are packed into that. Essentially it boils down into these 6 buckets for our team members: communication, expectations, accountability / performance, relationship with your direct leader, your manager, opportunities for growth and development, and then organization's recognition and rewards program. So this is really what that survey is delving into to kind of suss out how are we doing in these areas, where do we need to be focusing on. This is all 17 communities put up there. Kudos to Wesley Court in Texas, the only one best in class there in blue. And we've got a couple of communities in green who met their kind of targeted engagement increases. The rest of us a little bit below there, but you do see some positive numbers as well, even for those in the red. Just meaning we got some more room to grow. You can see the regions broken down there at the bottom. All 3 regions at 75%. I do have Zach in the room, so I'll tease the home office at 66%. So they've got some work to do there. I can help them with their engagement action plans if needed. But overall, life space wide, we saw an increase of 2 percentage points. I tease Zach. Don't tell Jesse. So just breaking that down. Now, for our team members, the next couple slides I just want to share with you so you're aware. I'm not going to delve too deeply into this, but we go through a similar process that you'll experience as well. We own these results, right? It's on our department directors. There's no, oh, the previous ED did this or that, or the previous director did this or that. These are my results, gotta own it, gotta fix it from here, right? So we create action plans. They gotta be focused, they gotta be just 1, 2, or 3 items, because we do this again in August. This really is a continuous quality improvement process. It's not just a, what's the one thing we can do and check off our list and move on. So we do engage our team members in more workshops, because yes, the survey gives us good information, but sometimes you just need to have a little bit of a conversation to get to the heart of what really is an issue, so you craft a good solution for that. So we do other check-in surveys throughout the year through our Workday app, just to see how we're progressing. And then again in August, we're going to do another survey and kind of keep placing those check marks and see how which direction we're going in. Another big thing for our team members that they're going through right now is open enrollment. So one of the changes the organization is doing is they're aligning their benefits plan year with our fiscal year and the calendar year. But in order to do that, we have kind of a weird off-cycle year. And so our team members are gonna go through the open enrollment process where they're selecting their benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, life insurance, all of that stuff. They have to make those selections because there's gonna be a short plan year from June 1st this year to December 31st of this year. And then the team members are gonna have another open enrollment in October, which is gonna be for all of 2024. One of the things that I really like about this from like an operator's perspective, anytime you have a benefits year that kind of rolls into kind of in the middle of your fiscal year, you never know what grenade your insurance company is going to toss at you, 20%, 30% increase, and you're trying to budget for that. Well, now we're going to have those conversations up front so that when we make our budgets this year, there's no surprises in the middle of our fiscal year. They're all aligned, and then we can budget for the changes potentially to our benefits plans. Maybe we're gonna make some enhancements. We can budget for that in one fiscal year versus trying to straddle two and maybe have some overages unplanned impacting our finances. So our team members are on board with this. We've got a couple of modifications. We've added kind of that feedback, a lower priced health insurance plan, high deductible, not paired with an HSA in this version, but for those who are maybe cost conscious on the premiums for health insurance, there's another option for them there. But likewise, they're doing it online, but we've also given them this time a phone number they can call. That seems to be well received, especially for folks who may not love technology and doing that. They can call someone, ask questions, understand which plans are best for them, and make a decision there. So from a customer perspective, not a whole lot of change here because we're going through that process, but I hope next month to be able to share a lot of information with you. So I'm sure you've seen this everywhere, and thank you to the many who have already participated. I think we're at 120 participants in the survey, so obviously the more we can drum up, the better. So again, appreciate those of you who are taking the time to complete that survey. I know Rhonda's got a couple of events going on the rest of this week to kind of treat you and give you an opportunity to fill that out. All of this, again, kind of like Ann said, it may not be the ideal tool, but it's what our organization has embraced. There is really good feedback, so please, share that information. So, we're working on stuff that actually moves the needle for you. That we're not chasing our tails doing something that really doesn't, improve your level of satisfaction or increase your ability to say, yes, I recommend this community is a great place to live. Yes, we've got the NPS and we look at that, but again, I promise to bring you the happy or not every single month. February was a little bit of a rough month for the dining team. They did see an improvement in March. So they saw a little bit of a bump on the happy index to 86, which is an increase of 6. But this again is really good information. We've seen a huge increase in the number of residents participating in this system, a lot of comments, thank you, thank you, thank you. Looking at February versus March, so March is the blue squiggle line and February is the gray squiggle line. You can see overall, you can see where February was a little rougher in terms of specific days that were very rough. And March, not as many of those, but this is really where our team members are honing in to understand, okay, what went well on these days and what didn't go well on the other days. So that's what they're using, that happy or not feedback. So we do appreciate you utilizing that system. So I put really, this slide is here more for me, just saying we're wrapping up that portion of the balanced scorecard and transitioning into our community updates. But again, hopefully you're starting to see why we have this focus on the 4 and how we believe that it integrates in terms of moving all items forward. So any questions about our balanced scorecard or some of the metrics I shared?
Will a copy of this presentation be available later?
Yes, sir. So what I'm doing, I'm putting it on Touchdown, so you can get it there if you're into Touchdown, and then I will have hard copies to Sue. She runs off hard copies of the presentation. So later this afternoon, you could pick up a hard copy from Sue, or by this afternoon, you'll also have it on Touchdown as well to be able to see. And I have January, February up there as well. Ann?
I think I've asked this before, but the 4-star rating, Thank you. The 4-star rating, what is the time frame for maybe getting back to the 5-star rating?
So really with the 5-star, I don't want to. Have I gone through the process of the 4 stars before? I don't want to bore you guys. I'll take high level. So 4-star looks, the CMS 5-star system looks at a couple different areas. Your survey performance, your staffing, and your quality outcomes. You get a star rating for each 3 of those buckets. And then there's kind of a complicated formula as to how they come up with the overall quality star rating. We have traditionally been at a 5-star and are shooting to get back to a 5-star. In general, what has kept us at a 5-star is our staffing levels. So when you look at the number of nurses and the number of CNAs per hour, per resident, per day, we've had a very high level. Our quality and our survey history have tended to be about a 4-star, if not a 5-star. What the latest change came was when CMS kind of moved the goalposts a little bit on the staffing side. And they said, you know what? A lot of communities have now popped up to a 5-star staffing level because they front-loaded, they brought in a lot of nurses during the week. But what happens on the weekends, right? What's going on in those facilities? So now CMS said, all right, we're going to change our focus a little bit and make the 5-star take into consideration how many RNs are there on the weekend. Well, typically you don't have your DON, ADON, MDS coordinator, unit managers working those Saturdays and Sundays pretty consistently. And so when you see a bunch of facilities, a lot of them big drops, ours a little bit of a drop. So once we lost that 5-star in staffing, that brought our 4-star overall to a 4-star. Our focus on labor has been, acute, very focused. But one of the things LifeSpace has kind of made an organizational decision is we're not going to chase a 5-star staffing rating, because if you look at the cost of that, bringing in RNs every single shift, 7 days a week, it is tremendous. If you can even find those RNs, frankly, because of the shortage. But there are communities out there who are so challenged on the survey history or on the quality metrics that they will, it's an uncouth way of saying it, but they'll buy their star rating by bumping up their staffing. We have very good opportunity to get to a 5-star by improving the quality metrics and improving our survey history, our survey outcomes. Now, survey, unfortunately, that's ideally only once a year. If you're seeing them more often, that's because you got complaints going on, so you really don't want to see them all that often. But you only got one shot at that, right? And that again looks at the aggregate of how many deficiencies are being issued to the facilities in your area. It looks at 3-year history. It weights the different years differently. So there's kind of, again, more complicated calculation that goes into that. But basically, the better you do on your survey, the fewer points you get, the better that star rating could be. We're coming up on our survey window here very quickly, so the team has an opportunity to have a good survey and bring that up. But the other thing is quality. The quality is broken down into many, many, many metrics, and it divides it up into those who are long stay and those who are short stay. So basically those who are just there for rapid rehab versus those who are there permanently. There are, with our size, we get kind of penalized in the sense of if we have one person out of a sample size of 2 who triggers for a quality issue, that is a 50%, occurrence rate. Well, it's only 1 of 2 in a building of 48 that ends up serving hundreds per month. Is it fair? No, but it's the reality of our situation, and there's tactics our nursing team can use to be able to address that. Some of it is simply documentation. How do we word things? How do we document things? Other things, it is, do we need to have a different kind of maybe UTI program to address something? But we're really looking at a super small sample size that gets kind of amplified somewhat irrationally, but again, it's the reality of our situation. So that's where really our home office support, we've got experts who can really drill in and say, hey, Village on the Green, focus on this one thing, we'll get you this many points, which will take your 4-star to a 5-star in terms of quality. So it's a long answer. Hopefully I answered
So
your
that's
question.
what Sarah Ham is focusing on.
Yes, and Sarah has a fleet of very well-trained, very experienced surveyor. Essentially, they are surveyors. I mean, they're assessing your medical records and saying, here's how you can word this within the spirit of what you did,
Yeah.
but you could push it a little bit further. So I think we're taking credit for what we're doing, because sometimes we don't always do that.
That's good.
So there's opportunity there. Those rankings are updated quarterly, every 3 months. So they are sampling data all the time, but they only publish the updates quarterly. So, yes ma'am.
The ratings seem to be so much nursing home.
So yeah, the comment was the ratings really focused on nursing homes. I mean, I want to say after like the nuclear power industry, nursing homes are the next most regulated industry in the U.S. And I mean, you really look at the population, you know, vulnerable, frail, defenseless folks. That's the last thing a politician wants to be caught sleeping on the job for, right? So if they can introduce a new regulation and say, hey, I'm protecting my seniors in my district, they certainly don't miss an opportunity to do that. But it is growing. We're starting to see it leach into hospitals. And actually one of the funny things that hospitals are now doing or being measured on is you go to the hospital, you spend, maybe you spend a day or 12 hours in the hospital, when in the past, maybe 10 years ago, you would have spent 5 days for the same thing. They're sending you home, but then you're coming right back 24 hours later, right? Same thing, it wasn't addressed. And so what, essentially Medicare has caught on to is that, look, now we're paying even more money because there's another hospitalization because you didn't manage the first hospitalization correctly. So we're gonna look at 30 days, how many times does this person come in and out? And every time there's a readmission, they come back for an unresolved issue, we're gonna penalize your payment. So now hospitals are like, oh boy, we actually gotta fix this stuff. But hospitals have also figured out, well, it matters where we're sending people. So let's look at the nursing homes. Okay, let's only send people to a 5-star nursing home or a 4-star nursing home. So like now this whole rating system is getting even more complicated because now people are making care decisions. They're saying, well, I'm only going to send to a 5-star. Well, I'm not a 5-star right now, but I'm a Gold Seal recipient for 23 years straight. Yes, I need to get my 5 stars up, but the nuances in that, making a blanket decision of we're only going to work with 5 stars starts to get a little more complicated for hospitals. So then it turns the focus back into the hospitals as well. Like, what are we doing to improve that? So you'll see a lot of hospitals start partnering with home health. We're going to send you home, but then we're going to send a nurse in there the very next day and the next day and the next day. So that also threatens my business though, right? If someone who would normally come to me is now going home, well, I need to have a home health agency that's Medicare A licensed so that I can be the one to send the nurse in there so that I can still recoup some sort of revenue from that. So we're getting it. I feel like I started pulling on the one piece of yarn.
Where are we in that process?
So that is, right now the focus for the organization is expanding the personal care services to all 17 communities. And they're in the process of that and are going a couple communities every month. But they still have a ways to go to get that in everywhere. That agency, that infrastructure then goes through the licensure process to become the home health. Now, to get that license, you can apply for it on your own. It is painful to go through that process. I mean, any bureaucracy, this is the king of bureaucracies to get that license. You're looking at a couple of years to get that. Realistically, what do a lot of people do? They go buy an agency that already has the license, integrate that operation with their own so that they can do
I've
that.
seen that.
Yes. The good thing is it's not state driven, it is a federal program, so we only need one and we could carry it everywhere. Christine Dixon, who's the vice president of home health, has done that in her history quite a few times, both applied for licensure and purchased. And I know one of the reasons she was specifically brought on was for that experience, so that she could do that for the organization. So I've asked her for a timeline, and then she's danced around it, so I'm going to dance around it as well. Because I do get it. She needs to build the infrastructure to be able to support those operations. Because as soon as you do, you're getting surveyed, you're generating quality metrics, your payment starts getting impacted if you're not doing a good job. So she's got to kind of build her foundation before we can do that.
So we're we're still looking at a couple of years.
Yes, I will say, actually one of the kudos to Wendy, I mean, really first week here, she identified that as a need for our community. And we have brought in another home health agency called Elite that's here based in really all of Central Florida. And Elite really, I think until we have our own, they are very willing to work with us. They understand the level of customer service that you expect. They understand the quality, but they also understand as a community, if I have an opportunity to have my therapy team, Chris and his team provide therapy services in their home, other home health agencies are using their own therapists. But Elite has a contract with Select so that we can bring in the Select therapists. So yes, Elite is doing their services under the home health portion, but when there's an opportunity to use our therapists and for potentially us to get some revenue from that, we can do that. So we're looking at kind of what are the stopgap measures right now. That's nice having Wendy on the team to be able to say, here are the little gaps and services that we need to bring in to fill those gaps. So that's kind of one right out of the gate. We're like, let's fix that as quickly as we can to keep as much of it in-house. And the same, if you have a complaint with Elite, I guarantee you Wendy's gonna be all over them to fix it. She and I worked really well and did that at Westminster Winter Park and kind of just bringing that same model here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So let's repeat that. Yes, ma'am.
I realize that the revenue does come from the assisted living, from the healthcare, but I don't want you to forget the people in this room that came because of the green space,
Yep.
because of the amenities for exercise and to stay well.
And that's a great segue to kind of the topic of attrition. Yes, we have these healthcare services on site. We've added assisted living, we've added memory care in recent years. But I have a vested interest in keeping you out of there for as long as possible, right? Because every day you're out of there, I'm putting a private pay person in there. And that private pay person doesn't have the contractual benefits you do, and they pay a lot more. And I make a lot more money off of it, which then I reinvest in your community, right? So not to be kind of yucky about it, but ultimately that's the thing. And your healthcare rate is a great deal because you pay that equalized rate in memory care or in the health center, that's $8,000 less a month that you're paying than a private pay person is. So for me, running a business, I want to make sure, yes, I'm always going to have life care residents and I need to budget for that, but I need to maximize my private pays as much as possible as well. So there's that kind of balancing act of, if I can keep you at home with some home health or with some home personal care services or some meal delivery services, I want to do as much of that as possible until the cost, the cost equation flips, where it's costing me so much for you to be independent, it's more cost effective and it's better care for you to be in assisted living. That's kind of that's another area where Wendy is really going to be my eyes and ears, because she's a nurse and she can tell me, Joey, you have to pay up. They need the care, they need to move. Great, I trust her 100%, whatever she says clinically. Now, if I can say, Wendy, can I pay 2 hours here and we can keep them? And she said, yeah, we can do that safely, we can do that cost effectively. She's kind of my conscience on my shoulder to say, yeah, that's the best way to go. But we haven't had that, right? We've had to go to Pam or Missy or Nikki or assisted living. Wendy's goal is independent living, that focus. Get to know you from admission through the end and your transitions in between, how to keep you healthy and independent as possible. Connect you to therapy program to get outpatient, connect you to Treva and say, hey, Treva's got a balance class, why don't you go check that out if you're feeling a little unsteady. Or to bring to me, say, Joey, this is what I'm seeing in your community, you need to bring some sort of program or resource to help your residents stay independent. So I ran with that, but that's really the goal, yes. So you're independent and healthy as long as possible, so we're maximizing that. Okay. Team member updates, I got a slew of them for you. So Sarah Easterly, no longer the director of sales here at Village on the Green. That transition's happened a couple of weeks now. Wish her all the best, but just needed to make a change there. And Karen Deviney in the interim has really stepped up. She is our outreach coordinator. She's really stepped up to provide leadership to that sales team in the interim, because if you think about it, this change happened in March, right as we're coming through the end, and we needed to hit our 10 sales. We hit 11 sales. So a lot of opportunity for potential disruption and dropping the ball, but I think most of our residents that came in didn't feel that. That's at least my hope. They didn't feel that change. So kind of a testament to Karen on that. I'm just gonna jump to the bottom there real quick. We do have a new sales director coming. She's gonna be starting May 1st. Her name is Megan Williams. And yes, she's coming from Westminster Winter Park. I think I raised some eyebrows when I stole Wendy, and I think I made some enemies when I stole Megan. She has served as the vice president of sales for that organization. Recently came back to Westminster Winter Park as the director to have a little bit of a different change of pace. So I was eager to be able to poach her. She has been CCRC Life Plan Community focused her entire career. She has done it for for-profits, she's done it for not-for-profits. She has sold every single contract, A, B, C, D, rentals, all of it. A lot of what I know about different models and the benefits and the continuum I've learned from her with my time as an associate executive director there. She is a one-woman show there. She does it all. Here, it's going to be a little bit of a different role. She's going to be going back to her consulting days in a way, coaching up a team. We've got a lot of resources on hand here. We need to be able to maximize that and make sure that our structures are correct, our processes are correct, and that our people are getting the education, training, and are being held accountable for their performance. So, really excited to bring Megan on board. Wendy and I have worked with her quite a bit, and so I think she'll be a real welcome addition to the campus. She helped, through COVID, we were about 88% IL occupancy, which is like a historic low at Winter Park. She got us back up to 95% pretty quickly. So she can get results in short order with not a whole lot of resources. So really excited and hoping that she's going to be kind of the wind in our sails carrying us through the rest of this year. So excited to have her on board. Wendy, as we mentioned, has joined us as of last week and has jumped right in. This is a new position for the organization and for the community. So we're I appreciate Wendy's flexibility as we get all this stuff settled. She doesn't have an office, she doesn't have a phone. I've moved her multiple times this week already, but she will have an office in the renovated wing so that you'll be able to check in and visit with her. She reports to the executive director, so this is not someone that reports to Missy in the higher levels of living because it really is independent living focused. 2 promotions. Trish Kalari has been promoted to housekeeping supervisor. This was the position that was vacated when Sharon left. Trish has been on the team for some time and has jumped right in, really tackling the scheduling of appointments, and hopefully you are seeing fewer cancellations and fewer no-shows. And she's really just kind of utilized her observations the past few years and trying to put that into action. And I've gotten some good feedback about her already. So I'm excited to see her kind of spread her wings and really grow into that role. Similarly, Lenny Walker has been elevated to housekeeping supervisor. Maintenance. He might feel like it. Maintenance supervisor. So he's overseeing the team of maintenance technicians. That's an elevation in title and pay for both of them, and I think it's kind of well deserved for the work that they've been doing, but also looking forward to seeing them kind of put their stamp on operations in that sense. So another update, Schnelly, David is retiring. He has announced that April 21st will be his last day with us. Please join us on the 20th in the I'll call it Blue Heron Club at 2 p.m. for a farewell party. He's been here almost 9 years. Wonderful, many years of service. We're very thankful for that, and just kind of want to celebrate him. So please feel free to stop in, open house style. So if you've got appointments and whatnot, just make sure to stop in and thank David for his service. We have kind of restructured how we're going to handle those responsibilities. We're elevating Roger and Tommy to lead drivers, and we've kind of divided up some of those responsibilities amongst both of them based on their skill sets. And I think we are, Rhonda has always been over transportation, but really does need to, ultimately the buck stops with her on transportation, so she's going to be more involved in supporting those two gentlemen. They will continue to drive, you will see them, but these are working positions, it's not an office position. They'll have times when they'll be here at the desk with Sue, but really they need to be continuing to provide those services and taking your calls at the same time. So if you see, I know Tommy is super jazzed, so just give him a little congratulations for that. Any questions about those updates? By the way, that's my way of taking a drink of water. All right. Billing cycle, I think we have really hammered this home, but I don't want to take I'll take one more opportunity. Remember, March, no payment due. April 13th coming up is when both March and April are due. And then going forward, you're going to be on the regular cycle. So this is that tail end of that transition period that we were going through. Dishwasher project, so getting into some more, so that starts Monday the 17th. Tentatively, we're gonna say through Monday 4/24. Okay, breakfast and lunch orders are to go during that time frame, and then dinner is going to be a buffet style. Okay, that'll be from 4 to 7 in Palm Court. It'll be a different menu every night, so you don't have to worry about the same buffet 3 nights in a row and whatnot. So we try and have some action stations and make it a little bit lively for you. It is going to be served on disposables because our dishwasher is going to be down during that time. The cleaning that we do need to do, we have a dishwasher at the Oaks, so we're transporting that equipment over there for cleaning and back. We don't want to be transporting glasses and plates and things like that because we're going to be losing it left and right. So that's why we're doing this buffet style. They will start this Sunday as soon as the buffet, as soon as the brunch service is over with demolition. So I fully expect to know Monday morning how bad it is, because what they're doing is they're taking out all of the stainless steel equipment that's in there so that the dishwasher is exposed, and then Ecolab can come and get their equipment out. At the same time, we're going to open up the wall and see what's happening back there, and we know we're going to have some stuff we're going to have to address in terms of framing and cleaning and waterproofing and whatnot. So we're going to fix all of that, seal it up, tile the wall. Then the new dishwasher comes, our stainless steel equipment gets installed back in, and we're back up for service. The reason why we're saying a week is just we haven't seen what's behind the wall. So we're saying worst case scenario, breakfast and lunch Monday will be to go, but our plan is dinner, worst case scenario, is going to be, you'll be back to regular dinner service on Monday the 24th. If we can speed that up, we absolutely will, so that we can ditch the buffets and get you back to a normal operating procedure there. But this is kind of what we're communicating in terms of worst case plan. We have all the materials on site, our vendor is ready to go. It's just a matter of what's behind the wall, and as long as it's nothing scarier than what we thought it was going to be, we can patch everything back up the right way and get everything back up and running. Any questions about that? Thanks to the dining committee who helped kind of guide us through this process of what is workable and what's not. So hopefully this is the least amount of disruption for you, and trying to keep things normal and having you socialize, and for that dinner meal as well. Drink tickets. Stan's not here.
No.
Please tell Stan we talked about it. Actually, let's play a joke on Stan. Let's tell him there are no drink tickets. So the tickets are $50 each. This does not replace the bar card. The bar card is not going away. This is for those who wanted the original system of the drink tickets. And I completely understand the why. It's faster. You come up, they punch your ticket, you get your drink, off you go. Perfectly fine with that, doesn't replace the bar card system, just an option for those who want it. $50, each punch is $2.50, one punch for beer, 2 punches for wine or liquor, okay? If you lose your drink card, you lost your drink card. If you lose your bar card, we can get that back because we have that record in the system, but it's there. This is not Sue. I think originally Sue used to sell them. This is the dining team that needs to manage this, the selling of the cards from the host stand. Reservations, bugaboo here. So what I've asked Chris and the dining team to do is just clarify, what are we doing right now, okay? So right now, reservations are highly recommended, okay? Not required. I'll put an asterisk next to that. We'll come back to it. We don't do reservations for Heron Club. That's really our casual eatery, but really is serving as overflow right now. Reservations can be made with the host stand, so it's Orlando or Tom. We have a set number of seating times, right, in the dining room. Many of you make reservations, which is, I think, advisable. Until we fix our flow issues, our volume issues, the speed at which you're having your meal, reservations is kind of the Band-Aid to the problem, right? If you can go in at any time and have an expeditious, high-quality meal, we shouldn't have to have reservations out the wazoo. Yes, maybe for a large party so we can have a table ready and have a server ready for that. But my ultimate goal is to get to the point where it's like, we don't need reservations unless for that one-off. But right now, this is where we're at. We will be working through the dining committee. There are many things in play to try and improve and alleviate this situation, none of which are quick fixes, unfortunately, but I just want to level with you, this is where we're at right now. Questions?
Understood.
Understood, yeah, right. You can tell how much I love talking about this stuff.
Question back here.
Yes, Mike.
Well, here's
It's even more of a statement, sir.
It appears to me that the size and number of tables is a problem with the reservation system.
In terms of like how many people you're requesting, or could you clarify that a little bit more?
Yes, I sometimes go in with a table of 6, sometimes it's 4. They often do not have room for 6.
Okay. I mean, really, that goes back to a little bit of like the volume issue of how quickly are we turning, those tables that are set for 6 or 8 or 4. Well, 4 really shouldn't be a problem. We should have plenty of 4 tops, but that's more of the processing and volume issue. So, yes, theoretically, if you sit a bunch of 6 tops back to back to back, you could run into that situation where we don't have a 6 top ready to go. But what I would hope is that we would be able to get to a point where we're proactively managing that and communicating realistically to you, okay, I've just sat 3 parties of 6. Unfortunately, it's going to be an hour and 15 until I have those tables turned over. Right now, I mean, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, it could be all over the place. So they can't say that with confidence. But I mean, really, I don't want to say that like we're doing seatings, but in a way you're saying, okay, there's going to be a group at that 4:30 to 5 range and a group from that 5:30 to 6 range that want to dine. We should be able to push everyone through in those kind of time ranges. The problem is when you have that 4:30 to 5 group still there at 6 o'clock, then that second seating gets pushed off. So then they come at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So now you've got everybody coming at the same time. So it's one of those, we gotta, the problems and the solutions are further down the road, but they're being exacerbated where you're experiencing them is trying to get in the dining room right now. Steve?
What the reservation for 5 or more, if you go when the table is 6, make a reservation.
Yes, I mean, if you know, I mean, I guess it goes back to I advise you to make reservations. Till we get this fixed, it's the most prudent thing to do. You don't make a reservation and you come for service, or you're gonna be turned away. I have told Chris they need to fix the messaging of what they tell you. We're going to feed you. We're going to take care of you. If that's in the dining room, give a realistic expectation of when that could be in the dining room. And if it needs to be to go, you know, make that offer and make sure that we're taking care of the resident versus, I'm sorry, we're full. If someone tells you, I'm sorry, we're full, and does not give you a viable solution, you tell me who that person is and when that was, because I'm gonna talk to that person, and I'm gonna fix that. So there can be jams, there can be, I get it, we've got a lot of things going on, but they have to give you a couple of options of, if you want to eat in the dining room at this time, or I can get you a to-go meal, you know, in X minutes. Yes?
I have a question on the week of the dishwasher.
Yes.
Reservations, since it's brunch, I mean, since it's buffet, how do you want that work?
I would still make reservations for the week of buffet. I actually bet buffet moves faster in terms of service, so that it's probably not, it might be our most efficient week, to be honest. You take the plate and you throw it in the trash, and the residents are getting the food. I mean, it's not the greatest service experience, but it does increase efficiencies there, so.
So you're gonna have, are you gonna have plasticware on the tables, or plastic glasses on the tables, or it's, how is all that, how are the ancillary pieces gonna work?
That's a good question. I would need to talk to Chris to find out those details to be able to answer that. I'd be guessing right now if I was that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I can't tell, I can hear that somebody may have asked this question. How do you get a reservation if nobody answers the phone? I call at 8, there's nobody there on the phone.
I need to find out about that. Honestly, I mean, in one sense, I don't think there are, you know, that phone isn't manned 24/7, but you need to provide to you reasonable expectations of when you can call and get someone to pick up. Ideally, we get away from phoning in reservations because of that dependency on a person to sit there. And I've seen someone sits down and then 2 seconds later they get up and they go off to do something, you know, that they were asked to do, or an order, or they're trying to help out. And just to have someone dedicated to answering reservations right now, not really feasible. I don't have a great answer for you, unfortunately, but we can get you that. Here's when there is someone there, or here's when they are looking at the reservations, so that you know when you can call. You know.
Is there any way to have is there any way that you can put in a callback number? I mean, so an answering service so that whoever is there can call back?
Okay.
Because that would help immensely.
Sure.
Because you could say, yes, I want a reservation for 4 or 6, and I want it this day, this time, call me back at this number.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not there for 20 minutes, they can, and they're sitting there for the next 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and they don't have calls, then they can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, yeah, good. Stan, we got drink cards. Stan just walked in. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say, I realize I'm probably on the fringe here, but lunchtime is great. There are plenty of tables, you've got a great staff, you have the same food. So in my oddball thinking, I can't understand why everybody wants to crowd in the evening. Because usually, in the way I live my life, I'm wiped out by 3 o'clock. So I don't feel like coming here and you know, so I just want to say lunchtime is great. And you don't have to have a reservation, and you get great service, and you get the same food. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sam.
All righty, so landscaping, so we're in the tail end of Trimac here. Their last day is Sunday the 23rd. DS starts Monday the 24th. The DS crew is on site doing some assessments. I found out we have 140 sprinkler zones
Yeah.
on campus. So they are going through making some assessments because there's a lot of sprinkler work that needs to be done. They're assessing. We're going to have about 5 days of cleanup service from DS when we begin. I'll let you know the exact dates when that'll occur, but it's like 40 guys with leaf blowers and trucks that descend on us, and they're trimming everything, they're weeding everything, they're blowing all the leaves out, picking it all up and leaving, so that ideally the community's a nice clean state for their maintenance crews weekly to come in and just do the weekly maintenance service. They have had an arborist out who's assessing our trees. Yes, the orange trees are probably gonna have to go. They are diseased or dying or damaged. So the arborist is going around identifying that. DS is gonna give us a whole proposal for what needs to be trimmed, what needs to be cut down. They are gonna handle the permitting process that's required with that. They're also gonna be giving us some replacement options, you know, what kind of specimens, what kind of trees, how large caliper trees can we get. I'm not looking to clear cut anything, but you know, those are dangerous. There's a lot of trees right up against houses. You know, a couple of them call them widowmakers. You know, once you're walking by and a branch comes off and you're gone. So we're gonna have a lot of tree work done, and unfortunately the orange ones are the sick ones that have been identified. So we'll have a plan. I'll communicate that to plant and to the residents before we start doing that. But I know many had questions about it. Foxtail did begin at the end of March already. I mean, I know it takes time for the nutrients and fertilizers and all of that to make an impact, but we're already seeing a lot of the dollarweed die. And so there were some brown patches, and then we got some rain, so some of the grass is coming back with some of the new fertilizers we have. Again, that's gonna be a monthly process. They follow all of the watershed rules and everything about when you can fertilize and can't. But you'll start to see a noticed improvement in terms of the healthiness of the landscape. So that's kind of, we're gonna start picking up speed here, the cleanups and trimmings and maintenance here really going into May. Won't belabor this too much. Irrigation well's done, LED lighting, that part is done. That company doing the LED lighting is looking at doing some solar powered stuff for us as part of the grant and some of the dollars that are left over. So we're looking to see if we can convert or augment any of our natural gas boilers in the Oaks to like a solar boiler system to reduce our dependency on the natural gas that we bring in, which obviously saves energy but also saves us a good chunk of change there. The entryway update, no new changes yet. I expect by the end of April that I'll have better stuff to be able to come back and share with our plant committee and share with the residents to get your feedback. And that's just based on, you know, the architect doing their revisions on the scope based on our feedback and what they've learned and what we can and can't do on campus. So I leave that there as I'm not ignoring it or forgetting it. I just don't have any update for you there. We did get our 2023 capital budget finally released to us. Tony and I have been going through that to see what got approved, what is top priority, what is new that maybe wasn't on there that we got to swap. So we're kind of figuring out all of that, but we do have our capital budget released to us. So we're going to get going on some projects as related to that. And I'll give some more detailed to plant and to resident council on what those items are. Clubhouse renovation. So we have another punch walk scheduled for April 20th. It's coming along. I don't know if anybody's poked their head in there, but they've made a lot of progress, and really by the end of this week, there should just be a few items left on that phase one. Furniture, art, signage is scheduled for the week of the 24th. So they're really, next week is kind of another week for them to really tighten that up, and if they get done early, they can start really diving into phase two. But furniture, art, signage, and the final inspection, which is pending the signage, right? You have to have a certain amount of signage and braille signs and stuff like that up before you can do the building final. So it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are reserved for furniture and art and signage, and then the last 2 days we're open to get our building inspection in. And then office moves, like for me and for Javier, the week of May 1st. We've got IT here Monday through Thursday that week to get us all set up, hooked up, and everything. Phase two, it's gonna be a squeaker. Week of May 22nd for the furniture, week of the 29th for moves. Realistically, it's gonna be set up I don't know that I'm actually gonna move sales in there. It'll probably just be the furniture and art, because once they're in, our focus really is the grand opening celebration on the 7th. And there's a lot of planning and execution that occurs really a week to 2 weeks before that to make it happen. And I don't want to try and cram people moving offices and computers at the same time. So Tony's checking in every single day, giving me an update every single day, and we're feeling good about this. It's really on just the general contractor executing and making sure the vendors and the subs get in. There's no, Seminole County inspection pending or whatnot. All of our ACs are in, everything's hooked up, so they're really moving along with this. So we're still planning June 7th, 3 to 6 p.m., big old bash. We're working on invitations and everything and more details to come to you so we can celebrate properly. Yes, ma'am.
What is the difference between phase 1 and phase 2?
Phase 1 is the, I guess like the original health center side, and then phase 2 is this off the lobby here, the
Okay.
marketing, reception, the new library, all of that. That's phase 2. The lounge off of here as well. Again, you don't need to read all of this, but there was a question about annual cleanings. One of the things Trish is tackling is getting us back on schedule with the annual cleanings. We do outsource that to a new cleaning company. The residents that have had that service have had really, really positive feedback on how that has went. The scope that we've agreed to with the cleaning company is this, in terms of what's done in the kitchen, the common areas, all the bedrooms and the bathrooms. Is this set in stone? Is this perfect? No, but this is kind of our starting point. So as residents give us feedback, we're tweaking things as we go along. My goal is we do annual cleanings. We know how many units we have. We know we got to do them once a year. It's basically divide them up evenly over the course of the year so that you know A112 is done in March and B112 is done in June, and have that kind of a schedule so you know exactly what you're walking into. And I know what to budget for too, because right now it's a little loosey-goosey on what the expense is and how we're booking it. So understand you're probably not going to want a cleaning in December, when you've got family or the holidays or something going on. So we'll be flexible, but we're trying to establish a more proper structured schedule. And the window cleaning is still on my list of moving to that as well. But right now this was causing a lot of dissatisfaction amongst residents that it wasn't getting done or they weren't sure what was gonna happen. So I kind of pointed Trish towards fixing this right out of the gate. And so we'll have this available for you so you know what to expect. I'm gonna fly through this last one because we're gonna come back to it. The company is partnered with a new company called Can Do, and it is basically for IT support for seniors. It is an enhancement. It's not something that there are going to be certain services we provide all residents as like an activity, but really this is if you want one-on-one IT support from somebody for, I think it's $14.99 a month. You can pay this service. It'll be on your monthly statement. It's an app. They will literally, basically, be on the app with you and tell you, okay, you want to learn how to use Zoom? Here's how we use Zoom. You want to FaceTime your grandkids? Here's how we FaceTime your grandkids. They are trained to work with seniors. This is their sole focus, so they don't provide IT services to all sorts of other populations. This really is out of life plan communities, senior living focused. So it's one-on-one sessions if you want. They offer group sessions. There's a pilot program at our community, Carencia, and residents have had a lot of good feedback about it for those who've opted in to use it. It's just going to be another resource for you to be able to access on the stuff that, this doesn't take the place of Peter and like his helping with a lot of tech stuff, but this really is to augment, right? Peter can't necessarily do one-on-one training per se, but this is a resource that can do it in a pretty cost-effective way. Once the Oregon Life Space has kind of hammered out some of the details on this, I'll come back to you in May with the exact details. The Can-Do rep is gonna come out and explain everything as to what they do, what they don't do, what it's like. There's gonna be a time for like certain number of months free for you to try it out before the charge kicks in. There's no commitment. You do your free months, you don't like it, cancel, no big deal. But just kind of another thing coming. This I think is coming out of some of the resident feedback from last year in terms of the desire for more IT help. So this is kind of a solution that they're developing to be able to offer. COVID-19 is always my last one, right? Numbers have dropped, but if you look at the very end, that percentage in terms of the positivity on that bottom graph ticked up just ever so slightly, right? We need to be below 5% here in Seminole County to be able to ditch some of the mask mandates and whatnot. I don't know with President Biden's kind of declaration that COVID's over, that's coming up in May, if that's going to make all of this moot or not. But you know, we've seen a drop in numbers. Knock on wood, I've not sent out a letter in quite some time for a positive team member or resident, so I hope to keep that streak going. But still, you know, very much present here in Florida. So next meeting is going to be May 10th, right here at 10:30. And I'm going to leave this slide up for anybody who needs to take a picture of it so that they do their survey. And do you want me to do questions?
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Did you get the emergency contact information back? The forms, remember, that came out to everybody?
We're still gathering that.
You're
Yes,
still
we're still
gathering
gathering emergency
Okay.
contact information.
But you have no problem stuffing we need to be helping out with?
Not yet, not yet. We're going to kind of do the initial wave,
Okay.
update our files, and then we'll target the specific folks so that we're not, you know, bombarding everybody with that. But those who update have not updated it, we're going to be in touch with them to make sure we get that information. Mike?
Yes, two things. One, Building B. During the last storm, we had floods in the area. One unit was actually flooded out, you know. We have a swale in the area, a depression, where the water builds up, comes up to the doors. Last time it just came up right to the edge of the door, it didn't come inside, on my side of the building. Of course, you know, on the other side of the building, it entered the unit. The other thing is, about 3 months or so ago, somebody from LifeSpace came in and talked to us about an investigation into cable television. Wondering if there's an update to that report.
I don't have an update from Ken Poinsett, who's the Chief Information Officer, who's working on that. But I do know that he is continuing to work on that. I just don't have an option. He has not come back to me and said, this is what we're looking at for Village on the Green, what do you think yet? So, but I know that's kind of one of his top priorities to do that, so I would expect some information soon on it, and I'll circle back with him and see if he's got an update. I just hasn't shared it.
Joey, a number of people have asked that at or before the June 7th date, when you have the ribbon cutting, that we have a piece of paper or form or something that shows the who's in what office and what's in the other rooms and all that, so people at least can understand what's included in phase 1. Phase 2 is a little bit easier, but I think we ought to do both if that's possible.
Yeah, I'm one step ahead of you. I'm actually trying to get marketing to pay for that. Because what I said was we need a map for all of our guests on the 7th to know where the food and everything is. And also, could you put where all the offices and everything are? So once they've paid for that, I can, you know, adapt it so that we use it for our own use. And they're like, that's a great idea. Great, you guys pay for it and let me have it. So yes, I'm there with you. We need a map. Yes?
Did we ever come up with a name for that place?
The renovated health center.
No, so the naming, you know, I'm trying to navigate the waters and see exactly how much latitude we have to be able to do that. Because the last thing I want to do is say, all right, let's all come up with a name, and then I hear from somebody else going, oh, no, this is what the name's going to be. So I'm just trying to feel where my guardrails are on that. But I'm on board with the idea of naming it, because I don't even know what to call it. Right now it's phase 1, or the old health center, which is not exactly attractive. But yes, we need to come up with a way to identify it. I just want to be clear about what we can and can't do before. Huh? Highest bidder? Steve Gus with the first bid, anybody know? Could be. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Okay, you're taking it easy on me today.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
Oh, well, thank you, Joey. That was a great review. Actually, you covered absolutely everything that came up in our committee meeting or our council meeting. Only a couple of things. One, the finance committee meeting time has been changed for the next couple of months. Al, as you know, Al is under the weather, but he's coming back loud and strong pretty soon. But due to the fact that we haven't gotten the financials and all, the finance committee will be at 2 o'clock on the Wednesday before the resident council meetings of each month. So it's the first Wednesday of each month, or the first Thursday. That just affects the finance committee, but I wanted to mention that. And also another thing now, let's see.
Before you move from that,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken, we'll actually have 2 in May, because May is a 5-week.
Oh, okay, yeah, the other will be at the end.
Yes,
Yeah,
so it'll be
at the
May
end.
3rd and May 31st.
And the 31st, yeah, that'll be the one for the June. Yeah, thank you, Sandy. And then the only other thing that, the plant, I think Joey pretty well covered the budget business, and we'll hear more about that, the things the projects that'll be coming along. Also, I wanted to congratulate Stan Goldstein, who was honored at the Phyllis Lieblich Resident Service Award dinner. That was a packed room of 75 residents, a dinner here in the Longwood Room on the, when was it, the 29th. So congratulations to Stan. I believe just about everything else has been covered. Building C has a party in their lounge on the 16th.
And Building B has their building meeting this afternoon at 3:30.
Oh, I didn't have that, okay.
And Steve Nash is gonna give an update on legacy planning for us.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
if you'll say that to them, because they may not hear it.
Say it again.
Steve Nash
Steve Nash will be giving a legacy planning
at 4 p.m.
at 4 p.m. and that's today for Building B.
Yes, in the
Okay.
lab.
In the lounge. That'll be today's get-together. Zaf made mention of the last Villa meeting that they had, Villa 2 meeting, and that Javier spoke, and everybody appreciated that, his update. Yeah.
Building A meeting is tonight.
Building A
dinner party is tonight.
Building A dinner party is tonight. Now, we didn't have that written down either, did we? Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you. Steve?
Joey, is there a big sales event tomorrow night?
Yes, there is.
And is a lot of people going to be here at parking issues or anything like that?
We're doing parking off-site at the Protegrity building and bussing them over here, but there are gonna be a lot of people.
And it's supposed to be almost 100 people coming.
Yes. I think
Really?
it's 18.
Well,
Yeah, it's a big
What I
one.
was told, I don't know if that's true.
Yes, it's a big one.
well, I don't know that everybody heard that.
No, share that.
Okay, there's gonna be a big sales event tomorrow night. The parking will be off-site, but there will be plenty of people here for that. There'll
Is
be
it in the Longwood Room?
in the Longwood Room.
Well, tomorrow's Thursday, and that means that Mahjong and poker has to be canceled.
They're moving to the Herring Court.
And arrangements will be made, have been made for the games.
It's the Seminole County Chamber.
That's what I
Okay,
thought.
it's the Seminole County
That's
Chamber,
big, that's 100.
Chamber office. Is there anything else? We're almost at noon. Oh, we've got some other things to say here, okay.
Thank you, Anne.
Are you-
Are you sure?
This is Marjorie.
Marjorie Abbas, and I just want to say something about Sweetwater Oaks Garden Club. I've been a member for over 20 years. We've done many community projects, and the garden club decided to take on the butterfly garden here, Village on the Green, about 3 years ago. You can't hear me?
No, we're saying it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Marjorie,
Well-
why don't you come up here where people can see you on TV?
I'm not a public speaker, Anne.
Well,
I
become
always try to get out of it.
But you're speaking in public, so here you go. There you go.
So we finally, last week, a number of the members went over to Lucas Gardens, picked up most of the plants. The most important ones, as you probably know, are milkweed. They managed to get almost everything except the milkweed plants, which they didn't have. So those would be coming soon. And most of the other plants are deer resistant. We have little bags to keep away the deer. We have a few more issues to take care of. But I have a list of people that are coming daily just to check it, to make sure everything's okay. But this was a project that I felt would be so great for the residents, because if you think about it, there's so many studies that have shown just 3 minutes outside in nature promotes your health, your well-being, your mood, and everything that you can do. So just do what you can for yourself and enjoy it.
Thank you, Marjorie. We're glad to hear that the butterfly garden is coming to a conclusion.
Oh my.
I think with that, if there isn't anything else, let's call this an adjourned meeting, okay?
Amen.
Very good. Thank you all.